The morning sun blazed down on Interstate 40, turning the blacktop into shimmering pools of heat, rising like restless spirits from the desert floor. The air hung thick with the smells of gasoline, grit, and a faint, almost sweet, scent of motor oil, clinging to everything within spitting distance of Miller's garage. A battered sign creaked a mournful tune in the dry wind, and a swarm of flies buzzed lazily around a half-empty soda can someone had tossed onto the curb. Inside the garage itself, the clang of metal on metal echoed like a broken promise. Jake, the Hammer Harrison, rumbled into the parking lot on his Harley, the engine coughing and sputtering, before finally giving up the ghost. He was a mountain of a man, arms adorned with faded ink, a black leather vest proudly displaying the unmistakable red and white Hell's Angels patch on his back. His jeans were caked in the dust of 300 miles of desert highway, and his face, a roadmap etched by years of riding beneath the open sky. But despite his imposing presence, Jake was known within his chapter for one thing above all else: his patience. At 62 years young, he'd seen enough of the world to know that anger rarely, if ever, solved a damn thing. Now, before we get any further, if you believe in treating people with respect, if you stand for dignity and fighting for what's right, then smash that like button, drop a comment below, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this, they remind us that the way we treat others always comes back to us, one way or another. Jake, slowly, deliberately, pushed his bike toward the garage bay, where a man in a greasy blue jumpsuit was wiping his hands on an even greasier rag. The name patch read Hank Miller, and the way he looked at Jake made it crystal clear that judgment had already been passed. Hank took one quick glance at the leather vest, the tattoos, the road-worn boots, and his lip curled in open disgust. "We don't service your kind here," Hank sneered, loud enough for the two other mechanics to hear. "Take your dirty bike somewhere else. We run a respectable business." Jake kept his voice even, calm. "The engine is overheating. I just need a quick look. I can pay cash." Hank took a step closer, folding his arms across his chest. "Are you deaf? I said we don't want you here. You bikers think you can just roll into any town and expect people to drop everything for you. Not in my shop. Now get that piece of junk out of my parking lot before I call the cops." The two other mechanics snickered. One of them made a crack about the smell. Jake looked at them for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without a single word, he pulled out his phone and sent a single text message. He pushed his bike into the shade of a nearby tree and sat down on the curb to wait. Hank Miller went back to work, feeling pretty damn proud of himself for standing his ground. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. 10 minutes later, the first rumble reached the shop. It was faint at first, like distant thunder rolling across the mountains. Hank looked up from the engine he was wrestling with, squinting toward the horizon. The sound grew louder and louder, and then he saw them. Motorcycles. Hundreds of them. They poured down Interstate 40 like a river of chrome and leather, their engines roaring in perfect unison. Harley after Harley after Harley, filling the road from shoulder to shoulder. The lead riders turned into the parking lot, and within minutes, the entire shop was surrounded. Hank counted as they kept coming. 50, 100, 200, 300. The roar was deafening. By the time the last bike parked, there were 500 motorcycles surrounding Miller's garage, 500 riders, all wearing the same red and white patch as Jake the Hammer Harrison. They killed their engines all at once, and the sudden silence was even more terrifying than the thunder had been. A massive rider, at least 6'5" with a beard that reached his chest, walked toward Hank, his patch read Road Captain. He stopped 3 feet away from the mechanic, who had gone pale as a ghost. "I hear you called my kin dirty," the road captain rumbled. I hear you refused to help a man in need because of the way he looked." Hank tried to speak, but no words came out. His employees had disappeared. His customers had fled. He was alone. The road captain continued. "Jake, the hammer. Harrison has been riding with us for 40 years. He has given more to charity than you will ever earn. He has helped more stranded motorists on this highway than any tow truck driver in the state. And you called him dirty because of a leather vest." The crowd of bikers did not move. They did not threaten. They simply stood there, 500 strong, watching. Then, something unexpected happened. Jake, the hammer. Harrison walked over to Hank and extended his hand. The mechanic flinched, expecting a blow. But Jake just waited. "I could have let them do whatever they wanted," Jake said quietly, "but that's not who we are. We don't destroy, we teach. So here is your lesson. Friend, every person who walks through your door deserves basic respect. You don't know their story. You don't know who they know. And most importantly, you don't know who they are inside." Hank Miller took the offered hand. His grip was weak, his palms sweating. He could barely meet Jake's eyes. The road captain stepped forward and handed Hank a business card. "This is my personal number. If anyone on this highway needs help and you hear about it, you call me. We protect this road. And now, whether you like it or not, you are part of that chain." One by one, the motorcycles started up again. The thunder returned, shaking the windows of the shop. But this time, it sounded different to Hank. It sounded like a second chance. Over the following weeks, something changed at Miller's garage. Hank started keeping water bottles in a cooler by the door for anyone who looked thirsty. He stopped judging customers by their appearance. And once a month, a group of Hell's Angels would stop by, not to intimidate, but to get their oil changed, have a brew, and remind Hank that family takes many forms. And before we end, we have one special request for you. Comment below with the words, "Respect changes everything." Show that you understand the message of this story. Because the truth is simple. The way we treat strangers says everything about who we are. And sometimes the person you dismiss as worthless might just have 500 friends waiting around the corner. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss another story of redemption, justice, and the unexpected ways that life teaches us to be better. Because in the end, we are all just travelers on the same road and trying to make it to the next stop. Never judge a book by its cover. You never know whose kin you are looking at.